Happy Monday, everyone. Alvin Morton here, again with Mondays with Morton podcast, where we actually highlight things in Chicopee and show people how we Chicopee. And today we have another episode where we're coming to you from Chicopee High School in the Barber chair. Well, I'm in the Barber chair, but we're at Chicopee High School, and we have with us today two paraprofessionals, or as we call them, education support personnel. So I'd like you to introduce yourself and then actually what you do for Chicopee High School or Chicopee Public Schools.
My name is Nicole Hayward. I am a SPED paraprofessional with the ASD program for 9th through 12th grade.
My name is Martha Ortiz. I'm a SPED paraprofessional also. I usually work in the bilingual Spanish department.
Thank you both for agreeing to this last minute podcast. But we actually wanted to highlight some more staff people. Last podcast I did, we highlighted students. They were all seniors. We had two students from Chicopee High School and one senior from Chicopee Comprehensive High School. So we wanted to circle back around in the last remaining weeks of the podcast to actually get some more staff input. How long have you both been at Chicopee High School or working for Chicopee Public Schools?
So I actually started out as a sub in the system. And that was probably like 2017, I want to say. And then I became a permanent SPED paraprofessional in 2019.
And yourself?
And I've been here for 2 years. I came from the world of DYS.
Department of Youth Services.
In Westfield.
Yeah, so I can speak about that, and I mean, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I just wanted to say I used to work there too, and one of the sayings I used to say is you can't spell dysfunctional without DYS. Hope that's not the same way. No disrespect to my former DYS people or DYS people out there. It was a great place to work, and enjoyed it, but just wanted to put that out there. But please go on.
Yes, I worked there for about 10 years in CHD and went to state DYS, and I finished over there, and I'm here working in Chicopee High School.
Thank you. We're both glad to have you both here. Before I go any further, let me reintroduce my barber. This is Brian Arnold, the barber at Chicopee High School. Can you say hello, Mr. Arnold? Yes.
Hello.
So, can you actually tell the people or the viewing public what a paraprofessional or education support personnel person does, or maybe even at Chicopee High School, or just in general? Because you're in a particular program, so.
So in SPED we have a lot of paperwork that we do. We have social skills we work with the kids. We try to do as much life skills as we possibly can to teach them how to be as independent as possible. Academics, we do a lot of academics as well. People think our classroom is kind of like hang out and like play with the kids all day. No, absolutely not. We have a lot to do, and I think our kids are amazing, and they become your own kids. Like you can't not get attached to them. It's so hard, and I absolutely love my team. So.
So, just for the viewing public, you work in the ASD program, correct?
I do.
And that is the Autism Spectrum Disorder Classroom.
Correct, yes.
And you have, is that the intensive autism program? Or
Yes,
is it?
yes.
Okay,
I
just
am
want to be correct.
intensive.
And that's 9 through 12, kids 9 through 12?
Absolutely.
All right. And yourself?
And I'm a sub, but I also have a set schedule. So I have classes just like the students do. I have 7 classes I have to attend. When I'm in the class, any student needs help, I back up the teacher with what we're doing. If anybody has a question, I'll field a question for her, because classes are pretty vague. And yeah, I'm just there for support, for the teachers and for the students. You do get attached to kids, because I have 7 classes, so with those 7 classes, I have 29 in each class or so you get used to having those kids in the classes, so they do become your kids.
So, one of the things I can probably equate it to both. So you said 2017 for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pre-pandemic. So
yes.
pre-remote learning. So my question I would ask you is, what differences or what changes have you seen compared to pre-remote learning or pre-pandemic to where we currently are now?
A lot of socialization skills are lacking right now. And I think that has a lot to do with being isolated for a while. It took them a good amount of time to adjust back into the school setting, for sure. If people don't know, kids with autism thrive on transitions and schedules. So it was challenging to get them back in the classroom, but like I said, our team, we're very cohesive in our classroom, so we made sure that they were pretty good within, a few months of coming back and getting back into the routine and getting things done. But overall in the school, you can definitely see a lot of lacking social skills as far as the mental health goes. I think that's a big factor in a lot of things that are going on right now. I'm sure you can attest to that as well.
Absolutely.
But a lot of it's isolation, and it's gonna take time. It's gonna take time.
And so the things you brought up, are you saying those would be the same things, not just for the classroom that you are a part of or the team you're part of, but you were saying those are some of the same issues for all kids in the schools?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
And you were in DYS during that time period, the CHD.
Yeah.
So compared to during that pre-pandemic, pre-COVID, and so the issues and the problems students or children were experiencing to now that you see after COVID or another pandemic, after remote learning and being in the school, what differences and different things do you see?
Well, I see, like, before the pandemic, kids had rules, and that gap that they weren't, it's like all that just kind of,
It dissipated.
it just doesn't exist anymore. I think that,
I think they lack a lot of motivation
and
as well.
and they want things quick. They're just in that more quick, because they got things quick when they were at home. Where here, I have a room full of kids and everybody wants something, go to the bathroom, do this, do that. So there's a lot of going on in the classroom to get everybody to that one calmness, I'm gonna put it. It takes a bit. So I think that before it was, you could walk into a classroom and you could say, okay, we're gonna start. And now you actually have to have that little pre-pep to get everybody settled out. And I think that they're not used to rules anymore. I'm not saying that they don't know what rules are, but they just don't, it's just like a different feel for rules. Walking in late, or, do you know what I mean? I guess seeing it's easy to explain it, but like I said, it's like rules are different. These rules that we have, they don't like, or they just think they've never heard them before, and they just don't want to apply
It's like they
them.
forgot that they have to be in a structured environment.
Yeah, and then I was telling them, I said, before pandemic, you guys used to raise your hand, used to go by the bells, same thing. I said, we had that pause, but nothing of that changed. It's all the same. The rules are still the basic rules.
So, with those things being said, and I think that's probably a nationwide phenomenon too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
what are some suggestions you would say that we can probably get everybody back on the same page, or bring them back to, as you would say, to, they know the rules, but to get them to follow. And this is not all kids.
No.
This is just some kids. There may
be
be more than before pandemic that are now falling into that category. That are kind of like, I don't want to follow, the rules, be rambunctious, or you don't want to be, rebels, or so to speak, or whatever it may be. But what are some of the suggestions you think that, not just Chicopee High, but what can we do to get everybody back on the same page and making sure? Because one of the things the district's been trying to do is try to focus on getting students reacclimated to back being into a classroom, back into, a brick and mortar building in a class. Some adjusted well, some have not. But what are some of the suggestions y'all think we can do in order to do that? Because there's been a lot of things come about. I mean, especially at Chicopee High, y'all were the first with the yonder packs.
Yeah.
Now we also have, now we also have metal detectors.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that are going on for students, so I'm just trying to figure out, and then we implemented a new dress code, which, kids, some follow it and some don't. And I still will never understand those piranha jeans, as I call them, the jeans that have all the cut out in the front, where I can see all the skin and stuff, but I'll never understand that. But I'm throwing a lot of things out there, but what do you think, how we can get everybody back into that regular routine and adhering to the rules and policies and procedures?
I'm not saying we don't have structure, but I think that we need more more structure with more staff. I mean, if we had more staff, and I know that's, saying.
No, you don't have to smack your hand, you don't have to smack
You know what I'm
yourself.
saying? But coming from DYS, we were structural. We
Yeah.
had our, I know that rules. I know those rules. Do you know what I mean? And I just see that they need to realize that the consequences don't have to be so drastic, but they have to be drastic to make a difference. Do you know what I mean? Because if you take too much away from them, you lost them. But if you do something small, something, consistent. Consistency is, I think, to me, is the key. I like consistency. I feel that when you see children who see that consistency, tend to, even the ones who don't want to gravitate, will gravitate.
Yeah.
Because when I sub in rooms, if I walk in, oh, she's subbing. I like when they say that. I don't like her. But they already know that when I come in, no nonsense. Do you know what I mean? But it's hard though. It's hard because you have, I'm walking in with 5 kids. It's a lot of kids with a lot of stuff going on. Do you know what I mean? So I think that more staff, which I know, like I said, it's a thing, but I think we need more staff support to help the consistency to flow.
So let me flesh that out. What do you mean by staff support?
I think we should have a bathroom people, hallway monitor people. Do you know what I mean?
A hallway monitor would be
Hallway
very
monitor,
good.
how specific people to do specific things, groups of people to do specific things.
But let me play on the other side, not be devil's advocate,
Yeah.
but this is in fact from a different perspective.
Sure.
I can hear you about having more staff, but you also have to make sure there's enough work for people to do. As when you're saying as a bathroom person, and I'm thinking in my mind like a bathroom attendant when you go in there and the person.
No.
And I'm not, I know
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
I'm joking, kind of
Yeah.
joking, but
Right.
I don't know if that's a full-time job for somebody to do from that perspective. And then also you're saying hall monitor, maybe that may be a full-time perspective of somebody who's constantly walking the halls. However, though, what I will tell you is we do have safety personnel that are coming in the fall to each and every other big secondary school. So you'll have 2 in the building. Those individuals can take turns walking the halls and seeing what's
Right.
going on.
That would be
But then I'll be in the bathrooms or
Yeah.
whatever it may be,
Yeah.
because they will have other duties too
Mhm.
from that perspective to do that, and they will be doing that particular piece. So they will be
Yeah.
walking the halls, but they also will be doing perimeter checks and things of that nature also too.
Well, like the bathroom aspect,
Yeah.
the way I see a bathroom person would be, you have 3 kids in,
Yeah.
they come out, stand there, I go in, I do a quick check, and then you go with the bathroom. Check the bathrooms too. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not just, okay, I'm just gonna, wait out
Yeah.
there. Do a sweep. Sorry.
Correct, and I think that safety, and now that you bring that up, that can be something that because you'll have 2 in the building,
Right.
so one will be actually monitoring the front door and we'll be doing perimeter and safety checks,
Yeah.
but that person could be walking the halls, can be going in there and do a sweep through the bathroom, just to make sure nothing's going on in the bathroom, because if you got, more than 1 kid in the stall, you got a problem.
Right.
So obviously something's going on.
And like I said, like you said, maybe that one person could do this. Once they start seeing these people doing sweeps,
It'll make them think twice. It's the same thing with the metal detectors.
Yes.
So you got kids on their heels and also thinking about different things. They just don't know when, where, and it's gonna pop up, and when the police are gonna be here. But the word gets out from that perspective, but still the word gets out, and they make kids, think twice about bringing something to school or doing something.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. And back to, with the DOS, that they put things where they put, there's places to hide things.
Correct.
So seeing an adult walking in and out and checking them is gonna put a big deterrence in things.
So I want to play on that. I think that a lot of kids aren't intimidated by the adults in the building. And I think that's a big problem there because they're not afraid, of getting a consequence. They're just like, whatever, nothing's gonna happen to me. I think they need to understand that there's consequences and they're going to affect them personally. Maybe they'll think twice.
So I guess the question is though, when you mean consequence, and I'm not sitting here saying that, because the district is not about, suspensions are necessary evil that we have to have sometimes.
Right.
But we also know that suspensions for a lot of kids don't work.
They're a
So
vacation.
especially after remote learning, it's a huge vacation, because I can go back and
Right.
watch Netflix, or I can go back and play video games, or I can do something of that nature. So I'm just trying to figure out what are some better consequences, because you have to discipline for us as a district, it has to be restorative, reflective,
Right,
and instructive.
Right.
So restorative means restore the environment that you actually damaged or what you hurt
Mhm.
or you did something to. Reflective, can this person understand, you know, what they did was
Yeah.
wrong?
Understand the actions.
Yeah, understand their
Take
actions.
accountability.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. And then
absolutely.
instruction pieces, how do we instruct them or help them to make better decisions in the future? So I guess the question is, what type of things can we do that are alternatives to suspension that kids can actually understand the consequences?
Maybe more incentive programs?
Like incentives like what? So I'm one of these people that we don't need to be paying kids to come to school.
No, I'm not saying pay them. There's incentives, I'm sure we can think of some stuff. I can't think of anything particularly, but, you know, people like to work for things, so maybe possibly an incentive program, like maybe, I don't know, movie tickets, I don't know, something like that, where it's like, if you don't have this many infractions, you know, a month, you know, something like that. More intrinsic motivation, I think, is
So
needed.
two things I ask on that: do kids still go to the movies? Is one, and
They
two.
do.
Okay, and then two. The other piece is, what about the kids that are doing the right thing? We're incentivizing the kids that are not doing and following the rules and following the policies and procedures. We're incentivizing them to follow those procedures that the other kids are already automatically
Right.
doing. So how do you break that barrier to say, okay, the kid's going to say, well, I'm doing this regardless, and I'm not getting incentivized, or I'm not getting any type of reward. So how do you do that particular piece? How do we reward? Like right now, we're doing things where we are going to reward attendance, because attendance has been hard, because you can't learn if you ain't in school.
True.
So now we have the truancy officers and our supervisor of attendance, Miss Katie Jeffrey. They will be handing out, you know, prizes to kids that had, you know, good attendance. So that's, you know, that's a way, that's at the end of the year, so that's a good thing to see how things, you know, the ebb and flow of the school year. But how do we do the thing that you're talking about, but not alienate the kids that are doing what they're supposed to do on a daily basis?
That's hard. It's hard.
And we don't want to drive a rift, and we don't want the kids that are doing good things say, okay,
Right, yeah.
now I gotta do some things and act up in order so I can be, you know, to
Yeah,
get some
well-
of
But
this.
it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
I think that, that with their consequences, just for an example, if a student's constantly skipping, and let's say they put them in ISS, what we have here, I think that they don't have to send them work because they've already been around the halls, so they should be doing the work that they've already missed. Do you know what I mean? That there has to be a time that they're catching up with their work, I feel. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're gonna put a kid in a room, put the Go Guardian on,
Yeah.
and you need to do work. You need to turn in 3 classes or 4 classes by the end of the day because you're in school. Do you know what I mean? So if they're in a suspension room, oh, I don't want to say, but a suspension room, if they're in there, work has to be seen, or you get another day. And it's not, you know, you gotta make it a little uncomfortable. You gotta make it a little uncomfortable, you know, because you don't want kids to go there. Kids shouldn't want to go there, you know what I mean? So, one, they're gonna be getting their work done, whether they like it or not, they need to turn in work. 2, they're in a secure location, they're not roaming the halls.
So I mean, I'm gonna tackle that one a little bit, and I agree with you. But the problem I have with that is, and you know this better than I because you more recently came out of DYS.
Yeah.
I've been going from DYS for a while now. I worked at the York State Jail,
Yeah.
Westfield Detention Center,
Yeah.
and the Terry Thomas program.
Okay,
So I
yeah.
work with males and females.
Okay, yeah.
But my question I would ask you is, I used to always think to myself that we should make juvenile lockup the worst place possible so kids couldn't come here. But kids were getting 3 meals a day, playing basketball,
Right,
at
yeah.
every PlayStation game possible. You know, had some meals, could watch any type of movies they could watch. And I'm thinking, these kids gotta get away.
Yeah.
Why are we making it so comfortable for these kids in lockup? And then some of these kids want to come back and want to be there. So I'm just going towards the point where you're saying
Yeah.
also too that in ISS or whatever it may be, we want them to like, look, I don't want to come back here.
Right, right.
So I don't know how we, make it to the point, because if we keep adding days, like, okay, if you don't do your work, you don't have 4 classes
Right.
done, and you got another day, the kid's like, I keep adding days, I just keep getting here, and missing work.
But while they're doing the work, it's not just, you know what I mean, it's just like, okay, I'm gonna go and do, I mean, the work has to be
Yes,
done, sent in, corrected, if it's, you know, you can tell when a kid rushes through.
yeah,
If they're doing something on their Chromebook, and while you go like this and look back and they're already done, they clearly didn't do what they were supposed to do.
Correct.
So there's gotta be the learning aspect as far as, this is affecting your grade. You have to get this assignment done by, you know, X, Y. If you have a week of that, then they have certain classes that they have to get done. The work has to get done.
correct, and I agree with that, and I just think, my time of working in DYS and teaching in DYS, kids used to always say, you know, Mister, why do I need this? How, you know, how am I gonna use algebra in real life? How am I gonna use this and that? And I think sometimes grades don't mean something to some kids,
Right.
because they don't equate it to, how does it, you know, equate to real life situations. That's why I think the things when you have, you know, experiential learning or hands-on learning, kids get it, because they get the actual,
Yes.
you know, learning block first, and then they get the skills block. So it's basically the CTE model, or over here is the pathways model. You get that, you know, that theory or learning block first, and you get the skills. So you get to put into action what you actually just learned.
Right.
And for some kids, that is the best learning tool for them possible.
Yes.
So I think maybe we need to integrate more of those things into the situation so kids can actually get it. I mean, it's still gonna be your, you know, your core classes and core subjects you have to take, but maybe enrich or infuse some more of those opportunities for certain kids.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, because the kids who do the printing, the kids who do forensic, when you talk to them in the class, you could sit there and talk to them for hours because they're so into it. Where before they started that class, they were just, you know, puffing and puffing about what they had to do. But once they got into that, like you were saying, you know, that hands-on, something different, and it piques their attention.
Everything carries over into something else, whether you see it right away or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
So one of the things I know that Chicopee High is doing next year, along with a couple other schools, DuPont and Bellamy, they're starting a video gaming club. So kids like the game.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I think that's going to be tied to the way kids' attendance and behavior will be in order for them to be a part of it. Because we know most kids go home and game
Right.
on a regular basis. Even today when we're doing metal detectors and I'm searching kids' bags, a couple of kids had some, you know, video game systems in there. And they play whenever, I don't know when they're playing it now, maybe at lunchtime or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But I just think that's another thing, but we can find a way that kids sometimes don't realize that they're learning when they're actually doing something that may be the best thing possible. But the video gaming club will probably help them go back to the point of being able to socialize and play well with others.
Absolutely.
And I mean, being in high school, I shouldn't say play well with others,
Yeah.
but interact well with
Yeah.
others. Because both of you said that was something that was missing once they came back from
Yeah.
the remote
And that's a
learning.
great idea. That's a great
Yeah,
idea.
that is a good idea.
That's something that they, you know,
That is definitely a
I
good
think
idea.
they would probably go more towards that than sports now. You know, sports is,
Well, that's one of the things, and Mr. Mackin will be one of my probably guests in the following weeks to talk about what's been transpired with athletics. And one of my theories about athletics and what the participation rate has gone down is because a lot of kids got jobs doing remote learning, and during the remote time period of COVID, that, you know, people didn't want to have jobs, didn't take a job, they took a job people have. And once we all know, as a young person, or as a person period, you start making money,
yeah.
sports don't mean as much.
Right.
But a lot of them will regret not, you know, taking that opportunity or having that experience in high school.
That is
That's
true.
true.
That's true.
That's
Very
true.
Yeah. So let me switch gears and talk about staff wellness, staff ideas. So students weren't the only ones affected by the pandemic or even the remote learning. Staff were also too. So what type of things have you heard or even seen among the staff, things that are different, or some of the issues and concerns that staff bring to the forefront for their own selves, their own well-being, or even some of the things that, you know, we can do as a district to increase, you know, staff morale or their culture and climate in schools?
That's a big one. That's a big one. That's a big one. You know, I really, from my perspective, because I jump around so much, some teacher burnout, some teacher, you know, they just feel like sometimes they're hitting a brick wall.
I feel like we're playing catch up from COVID, so a lot is being like pushed on us, like, get this done, you need to have this done, and like, oh, now we wanna implement this new thing or this new thing, and it's like a lot, because we're just like trying to, you know, navigate our own selves, and then it's just a lot more on us, for various reasons. course we get it done.
Yeah.
But it's like, whoa, like, okay, and then, oh yeah, this is a new thing we're gonna try. I'm like, oh, okay, like, it's just a lot, it is.
Correct, and I think a lot of those things are coming down because, you know, stuff flows downhill.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
the state mandates some things, and then the district
Right.
has to do some things,
Yeah.
and then the district pushes some things because they're mandated to do it, so it gets into the school buildings, and, you know, it falls upon staff to, you know, push these initiatives. Excuse me. So that transpires. So that's where it feels like sometimes a lot of things are
Yeah.
going on at one time. I don't disagree with you, you know, from the fact you're saying we're playing catch up. I do feel like we're 2
Yeah.
years behind
I
for a lot of kids, you know, because if you're a preschooler, you know, right now, maybe it didn't really affect you, but if you're a kindergartner, you know, you really are a preschooler.
Yeah.
You know, a fifth grader is really a third grader.
Right.
And maybe, you know, and some kids are still academically strong because they took advantage of some things,
Yeah.
but socially they're, you know, they're behind also too. Even much as people talk about social media, you know, I think that social media makes our kids more unsocial if you spend too much time on it.
Absolutely.
Because they're not willing to have those conversations face to face. And one of the things we talk about is not having coping skills for
Right.
young adults, better, at least positive coping skills.
Right.
They have some coping skills and some habits they developed during, you know, the pandemic, you know,
Right.
but like the vaping and different
Yeah.
things like that. And I'm not, you know, mocking the state for making, you know, marijuana or cannabis, you know, legal, but I think it's opened up a whole nother can of worms for kids to, you know, partake of more of it and in different ways, and also in times and places they should not be partaking of it from that perspective, and I'll put it that
Yeah.
way, because I'm not here to judge, you know, anybody on a particular piece, but obviously on school grounds, it is illegal, and anybody under, you know, a certain age is illegal also too,
Yep,
so.
and there's rules you have to follow in
Correct.
certain settings, that's just the way it is.
Correct. So back to I know we diverged a little bit, the staff piece. I'm still trying to understand, you know, where the pulse or where staff morale is right now within the ranks. There's a lot of things that are going on, and nationwide, you both said it,
Yeah.
and that it is there's teacher burnout, there's people walking away from the profession, there's teacher shortages because we can't, you know, recruit and retain people for whatever reasons may be. What are some of your ideas about retaining the talent we have in schools and recruiting more talent to come back to the field of education, because it is getting a bad rap for whatever reason it may be?
It's a tough one. I mean, I think it all sinks in together with, you know, having the support from, you know, administration, staff, you know, cohesing together again. And I just think that sometimes some teachers feel like they're alone. You know, I mean, because sometimes if you're just in your classroom and you do what you do and you get in your, you know, you come to class, do your job, do your classes, leave, come back, like you don't even have time to take a breath and look at where you are because you're just trying to get everything done. So almost like more support. That's the only thing I see, more support, more contact with other teachers.
Okay.
Because, you know, like if, let's say for example, if I'm on the 4th floor, I won't see somebody that's on the 2nd floor maybe from 2 or 3 days from now. Do you know what I mean? Or a week. Just because everything's just moving. So, you know, you get that, oh, how you doing? Great, all right, okay, see you, bye, hi, everything's okay. Do you know what I mean? It's just the teacher's pace is also a quick.
So it's hectic. So you're
Yeah.
saying more time to interact and more time to learn from your colleagues,
Yeah.
or, you know, or to just, you know, to have that conversation. I mean, and I think that's tough during the school day because
It
we're all
is.
on the schedule.
Yeah.
So how do we do that? But maybe more activities where there is more team building camaraderie that's you know, built up, a collegiality that's built up.
Yeah. And I think also too, I think that some of the teachers feel like they do feel like they're alone as far as just someone from administration or somebody else from your, let's say your team, to come and ask how you are. Do you know what I'm saying? Is everything okay? Is everything going good? Not having, like, let's have this meeting, let's talk, type of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, what do you have to say? How are you feeling? You know, what's your idea? What could we do? Do you know what I mean? Opening that door back up again.
Your thoughts?
It's different for me, cause I'm in one classroom mostly, so we don't really have that much outer interaction as much as everybody else does.
But your students do, and I'm hoping I'm saying this correctly because we are on camera, so this will be memorialized. At least your students have the opportunity to have some mainstreaming or some inclusion opportunities.
Yes, absolutely.
To see, with their peers.
Yeah, of course. But like I said, like I'm not all over the place, so I'm in one place.
Yeah.
So we support each other. Our team, we support each other very much. If my teacher's having a tougher day, it's like, hey, what can I do to help you? My coworker as well. We very cohesively work really well in our classroom, and I think that's a good thing. And like I said, we do a lot out of the classroom as well. We have an integrated science class with another teacher. We do gym with other teachers, so we do have outside as well, for sure.
So maybe this may be a loaded question, but I'm gonna give you an opportunity, not a loaded question, a question maybe I had to ask, but if you had a wish list of things that you could add, change, do differently, not just in, Chicopee High School, but along the difference, or what things you could look, if you talk about support so people don't feel alone, what can we do differently? What can we add? What can we, a wish list, so to speak, if, you had this wand that can make things good happen? For students, for staff, whatever it may be.
Wow.
I think we need to get out there, how important education is, how more important it is than like when I was in school. Do you know what I mean? Because of the way the world is so fast and quick with these children, I think that teachers need to be put on a pedestal.
But unfortunately, I've always, we've had this conversation in the barbershop, and the barbershop I go to, we have it because we have a lot of different conversations, but society is contraindicated.
Yeah.
Our athletes, our entertainers, all these people get paid a whole lot of money. And I'm not mad at them, because if I could do what they could do and get paid the money, I would be doing the same thing. But you're far more important people that make a bigger contribution to societies. Your doctors, your lawyers, and obviously your teachers, because you don't have doctors, lawyers, or even anybody like that, or even presidents of the United States without teachers that influence these individuals' lives to begin with. So I do believe that there needs to be some type of, mind shift on that particular piece, that the importance of the value of individuals, because I remember coming along, at least my parents coming along, they went through segregated schools, but yet and still teachers were high regarded people in the communities. And I think even with integration, they still were highly regarded. I don't know where that changed and flipped, where they were looked at differently and not being regarded as essential or important or the same title. We put athletes and entertainers on higher pedestals if we put people on pedestals, period. I'm not one to put people on pedestals, but we do put them up there compared to some teacher. We all have somebody in our life besides our parents or a family member, a teacher or teachers that influenced us. So I don't know how we change that mindset of society. But I agree with you, there needs to be some type of, promotion or something, whatever, because we've gone this way this year to try to rebrand the district and put some information out there in order to let people know, what we're trying to do. Because we always talk about, you hear about in the news all the bad things that happen in schools, but what about all the good things that are going on?
Right.
So I hear you on that about the importance of education, how to get that word out. What else? Some of the things on the wish list. It's your opportunity to put it out. We're on, be on camera. Put that out there, and there may be some ideas that we can, take and harvest and, bring to fruition.
I just think we need to be appreciated more.
It's
in general.
Educators in general.
Educators, support professionals, custodians, cooks, everybody in the school system needs to be appreciated more.
And I guess the question is, when you define appreciation, how do you see appreciation? What does that look like, and how do we appreciate the groups and individuals that you have spoken of? How do we show that appreciation? Well, you threw it out there, so
I know.
I'm catching it and throwing it back.
No, I play softball. I got you. I think that there needs to be, how they have committees and they have this. I think there's got to be something out there that is not that difficult to, I don't know what it is, but there's got to be a way that education the parents and people out there see more what's going on in here. Do you know what I'm saying? You know, they need to look from the inside out, not being out there and, you know, just looking at the back.
But didn't parents, so I mean, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But didn't parents get a glimpse about what their kids were like in school when we had remote learning? A lot of parents got a glimpse of that, and they were kind of shocked.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So they should understand what it's like on a daily basis for 180 days of having their kids and certain kids in the classroom.
Right.
But they seem to forget that real quick.
Yes.
So I don't know how we get that information after, again, like this is what a life of a student is, a daily life, a grind of a student. But we have many different students that learn many different ways. How do we get that information out there? And this is the life and the grind of a teacher. Regular ed teacher, a special ed teacher. It's the life and grind of a food service worker, a custodian, a school nurse, an SRO, a paraprofessional, or education support personnel. This is the life and day of a building principal, a vice principal. I mean, people need to understand what these individuals go through on a daily basis to understand what's going on in education. I think people forget. Some people still think education is the same as when they went to school.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, it's evolved and changed in a lot of different ways. And there's a lot of different things going on in school that were not going to school when they were in school.
And for security reasons and stuff like that, I know you just can't have parents come in.
No.
For security, I mean, I definitely know that, and I don't mean to have them watch a show on how school is, because we all know how that goes. But I mean, there's got to be. They need to understand. They need to understand what it's like in school now, compared to then.
Yes.
I think these walls keep everybody out.
And I think that there's opportunity, at least in most worlds, for parents to come in and observe a classroom. They have to schedule it and come in and do that. We can't do that for every parent.
No.
And I don't know whether or not we could have a day of you have, this is going to sound crazy, but you know how people have the days in private sector. Well, you bring your kid to work day. Yeah. Well, how not? Let's flip it. Kid, bring your parent to school day and see how many parents take up on that opportunity. But I'm pretty sure it may not be the parents that you want to come to school to be with their kids, but it'd be kids that, the parents that are fully involved for them to come there. And I don't know how to increase that parent involvement or participation more from the perspective. Because that's one thing I have seen that has gone down since the pandemic is, parent participation or family engagement. So I don't know how, and I don't have an answer for what is the answer to increasing having more involved.
It would be nice to have a parent or two. I'm not saying the whole, but have two parents of children who are having difficulty. Put it that way, having difficulty. What can you suggest? You know them. Help us out.
And I think that's what the team meetings and whether it's IST, whether it's team meetings, whether it's DCAT, whether it's IEP meeting. The parents do have the input to provide those things that are there. I mean, but also, we're not even talking about kids that may have disabilities. There's other things, how do we build plans and success plans for, kids that are matriculating through, because they know their kids better than anybody else. What does a kid like? How can we motivate them to do such and such? Maybe there needs to be those type of things that have those individual meetings with parents, like, let's build a plan for your child to succeed, and we want you to have as much input as possible, but also make sure that kid has input, because that child is going to know what's going to motivate them and not motivate them and what they like and don't like.
Absolutely, and I think that having them finally have having a voice. If they have a voice in class, it's disrupting or whatever, use your voice for positive. What is it that you want? What is it that, you know what I mean? I know we give the kids a schedule and stuff like that, but we need to find a way to make it work for them, so when they are in the class, they're not disruptive. Do you know what I mean? Like, for an example, I was talking to some kids in the library. I had a free time. We ended up having this whole conversation about stuff, and they're looking at me. They're like, I'm like, you guys got to go to class. And they're like, but this is a good talk. I said, but you guys can have these talks all the time. You have to do positive. You have to think about. We need an adult there. Call me. I'm free. Do you know what I mean? We also have to find a way. Like I said, be like that silly putty. Get in there and have those silly conversations with them sometimes. Not all the time during class, but step back a little bit from the desk and talk. But again, if you're trying to get a bunch of kids in a classroom to settle down to have that one conversation, and it's hard to, get all those kids quiet at the same time for you to say one thing, but I think it's doable. I think these things are doable. I just think we have to find a way to break it down
well, how do we engage that? How do we even bring that to inception for kids to have those conversations, or even to feel like that education is important, because it is going to open doors of opportunity for them. Where do they go to college? Where do they have a career? Go right into the workforce, whatever it may be. How do we, make sure they understand that it is important to have a foundation?
I think, well, like back in the day, we had study halls. I don't know how, that would work now with everything that's going on.
With all the requirements, that would be tough.
But that's what but I'm just saying, I know with all that, with everything that has to get done in the school that you have to cover. But I know study hall was a time when I was in school, it wasn't just all the freshmen together. We were with different age groups, and people were different, you know what I mean? As far as like, okay, you're sitting next to, I'm a freshman, I have a senior here and a junior here. They don't wanna hear me, you know what I'm saying? And you just get that, you start seeing kids do work, some do and some don't. Do you know what I mean? Just something that'll get them stepping away from the class for a minute, not too long, because we know what happens there too. But just give them a little space to do something, or they feel like they're catching up with their work, or, I don't know, just
So
try to
what
make them
about,
feel more empowered.
well, I guess the thing about it, one, we have advisories, maybe we can structure those a little bit different. And two, we rolled out Trails to Wellness this year, which is a social emotional curriculum, which would have gave kids an opportunity to talk about things outside of, because we touched on self-awareness and self-management. There were two of the blocks that we had.
Right.
Janae Champino, please report to the main office. Janae Champino, main office.
So we had those two blocks we covered. We have some more we will cover throughout the upcoming school year. She would talk about social awareness, she'll talk about responsible decision making, and relationship building. So those are the 5, castle competencies they'll roll out for all 20 lessons. But that gives them opportunity to talk about things outside of that particular piece. But some kids, at least the seniors I talked to in the last podcast I had, they didn't take it that serious, they felt like it was too late for them. Well, I'm hoping now that we rolled it out year 1, maybe year 2, will be more participation and kids can take advantage of it, because it gives them, most people don't feel comfortable talking about their feelings and different things like that, but maybe it's a place for them to do that particular piece, or maybe have some of the conversations they're talking about.
Yeah.
Maybe look at like what groupings they're in and see if maybe that's different, because maybe like who they're with, they're not able to open up. But if they're with like people they trust, maybe they're more opening, where they're gonna share more.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a
We can look-
possibility, but.
We can look at that and see also too.
Yeah.
So I will, I've held y'all long enough. I will give you the opportunity to, anything closing you want to add to it. I mean, I want to make sure that, I want to harp on the fact that we want to make sure we do appreciate what you all do on a daily basis, for our students and their families. And you want to make sure that you do feel supported. So if there's anything you want to add, closing statement, or things you can say that will better make you feel like you are appreciated or better supported, here's your opportunity right now before I close this out. I mean, nothing's going to be held against anybody or anything like that, because we're looking for ideas and thoughts on how to make sure that we can retain the talent we have in the district, and also recruit more talent for people to come here to be part of this Chicopee Public Schools family. I mean, our motto this year was, stronger together. And I do believe that we're stronger together instead of being divided. There's a, African proverb that says that, if you want to go swiftly, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And I think we can go farther together when we are together, all on the same page, working together.
Yeah.
So anything you all want to add to that particular piece, or anything that's been said in this conversation, and I do appreciate y'all stepping in the last second for me. Thank you.
I don't have anything.
Well, I would like to say that this job is a great job, because you get to see babies turn into adults in different ways, different, every kid has a different thing, but you watch some kids and you see them when they were freshmen, now they're sophomores, and see them going into juniors, and it's fulfilling. It's fulfilling. When you see a kid who passed a test that he didn't think he was gonna pass, it's a paycheck. That's my paychecks. My check is when I see a successful kid. When I see a kid who was walking with his head down, is walking with his head up. When you have 3 or 4 students who were in a class and they took the SEAL test, and they're high-fiving you because I can speak Spanish now, things like that, and I'm gonna get a job translating, and it's just the walkthrough that they had. It was my first year watching it this year. That was the most fulfilling thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm gonna get choked up. Thing I've ever seen in my life, because you see those kids, those kids who didn't have their head down, and they're walking down that hallway with their head up. cha-ching, paycheck. Because they're successful, so that makes me more successful, and they taught me a lot. So I'm here at school, but I'm learning too. I take notes, just like they do.
So I couldn't say it better than that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how we Chicopee. Thank y'all for tuning in for Mondays with Morton podcast. Thank you.